Hey, good morning and welcome to today's episode of Complete with Purdeep. My name is Purdeep Sangha. I am your host for today. I hope you're having an awesome Thursday morning here. We're going to get you ready to rock your day, so stay tuned. We have an amazing guest here joining us and also a personal friend of mine. And obviously, most of our audience is gentlemen, but gentlemen, if you have a partner, a spouse, a wife, who is in the business world or wants to build a brand on social media, get themselves out there from a digital marketing perspective, you definitely want to tune in or get them to tune into today's show because we're going to have an expert that works specifically with women. But the reason why we have her on today is because she's also going to give you guys some tips in terms of how to be better on social media and really the ins and outs, because I think a lot of us are missing out on those things. So I don't want to spoil that. We're going to bring her on in a minute here, but I just want to let you guys know, I want to thank you for joining us with this show. We've had some awesome feedback. We've gotten some great insight in terms of what you guys are looking for in terms of topics. So I want to thank you for that. Please like and share this with your network. The more people that we can reach, the better. And to start it off, if you have not gotten your copy of the Complete Man book, please do. It was just launched in December. Interestingly enough, we are getting feedback from just as many women saying that they're reading the book as men are, which is pretty fascinating. Go to completemanaudio.com and use the promo code LIMITEDFREE. So it is absolutely free for you right now. So I highly encourage you to get a copy because it's not going to be free forever. So I'm not going to waste too much time talking myself. I want to bring on our guest here, Lisa Ann. She is an expert when it comes to social media, when it comes to digital marketing. Not only does she do work for me because I totally trust the work that she does, and I can tell you I've gone through a number of different agencies when it comes to digital marketing. I've spent a lot of money. And I'm very wary of the people out there, the so-called experts. She is definitely someone that I trust. And she's also a personal friend. And she lives not too far from where I am. So I just want to welcome her. Thanks, Lisa, for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Purdeep.
Yeah, my pleasure. And it's great because I think today's topic is going to be relevant because obviously a lot of people are watching this. You're on social media, obviously. So you want to know how to use social media effectively, how to use it for not only to gain personal information, but also to utilize it if you're trying to build a business or grow a brand. Lisa, it's really interesting too. And I'm going to ask you to share your feedback in a second here, but just a thought off the top of my head is I'm seeing a lot of executives now focus on their brand on social media, which is really interesting, where previously they didn't. Now they're actually doing it. And we could talk about the importance of that. But before we get into that, please, can you just give a quick rundown to the audience in terms of who you are and where you came from?
Of course, yeah. So I am Lisa Ann. You guys can just call me Lisa, but the social media world knows me as Lisa Ann. I am a digital marketing strategist, and I focus on Facebook and Instagram advertising and digital marketing strategies that are automations for your business. So I actually started my business when I was 23. My goal back then, which was 6 years ago now, was to travel the world and build a business from my laptop. That was literally why I decided to get into what I do now. Over those 6 years, I have definitely evolved. Definitely my brand has changed. Social media has definitely changed drastically over the last 6 years. But now today, I focus on helping business owners and entrepreneurs scale their business and build a personal brand, leveraging social media, but also leveraging simple automation techniques. Because as entrepreneurs, as executives, as CEOs, we honestly know that we can just continuously work and work and work and work. But then we kind of fall down that path and not having a work-life balance. So automation is definitely going to give you that growth tools that you're looking for and that ability to reach those big audacious goals that people have for themselves, but still have that balance within their lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that's super important what you just talked about, because I remember when I got into digital marketing, which was a completely new animal for me when I came out of the corporate world. And I was a marketing executive at that time. And the digital marketing world was completely different. It was like night and day. They don't teach you this stuff in school.
Yeah.
You don't learn this stuff in the corporate world. The digital marketing world, when it comes to entrepreneurship, is it's a different animal. It's running at a completely different speed. But I firmly believe that if corporations actually behaved like the digital marketers out there, or excuse me, the businesses that are the mom and pop shops that are using social media, if the corporate animals, you can say, giants actually took those strategies on, they'd be very successful.
Yeah.
So Lisa, you're also obviously, you're successful at what you do. You just got married too long ago as well.
Yeah. Just a couple of years ago, we got married.
I can't believe it's been a couple of years already, because it seemed like
2 years in June. So yeah.
Yeah, wow, time flies, right?
Literally, time is flying.
And how's married life so far?
Married life is good. I mean, we've dated since high school, so I feel like we've known each other for our entire lives. But married life, nothing really changes when you get married. The only thing I feel like changed was it's more us, our goals together versus me always growing by myself.
Yeah, it's cool because I see your posts every once in a while on Instagram, or maybe it's Facebook. I can't remember, but I always see you guys out there. You're either snowmobiling or doing something together as a couple, which is, I think that's really cool, because it seems like you're friends just as much as you are husband and wife.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's definitely one of my best friends.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's get back into the social media side. So what kind of work are you doing right now in terms of helping people with social media?
So right now, specifically with 2021, what we're focused on is building connections online. So a lot of people, when they're looking for digital marketing, the first thing that they're looking for is just lead generation, typically. It's like, well, I want to grow my business. I need more leads to do that. Well, in the online world, especially nowadays, if you don't actually have that front end brand to build your authority, to position you as that expert, to build that relationship before anyone actually has that conversation with you, it's not going to be as effective. So right now we're focused on the entire digital marketing strategy, which includes your front end branding, which includes how to build that personal connection, position you as that expert, but then also generate those leads and turn those leads into prospects and turn those prospects into sales, all in automation. So that's going to include Facebook and Instagram advertising. It's going to include personalized sales funnels. It's going to include automation techniques. It's going to include email follow-up. There's a whole system, but having that front end connection piece is something that you need to make sure goes throughout your entire brand.
So if I'm someone in the audience and I'm listening to this, what do they get out of that? Like, there's a lot of moving parts. So what's the end goal for someone that you're working with?
Yeah, so of course, there's a lot of moving parts in what we do. Like you said, the end goal is generating more leads and sales into their business, or generating more clients into their business. So a lot of people, what I find happens is they're posting on social media all the time, or they don't even know what to post on social media, and they're thinking that social media doesn't work for their business. But if people are going at it that, hey, I just need a post to generate leads and sales within my business, you're not actually going to build that back end result. So focusing on getting more clients into your business, getting people booked calls for your business, specifically with my audience. So let's say with a mortgage agent, their end goal is to try to get people on a call with them so they can have that back and forth conversation to close them as a client. So you can actually automate that entire process. So all that end result user, so that mortgage agent, I'll say for this example, all she has to do is show up to that book call and do what she loves to do, is to work with her clients.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, because I think ultimately when we take a look at and my work in working with, let's say, professionals with mortgage brokerage agencies or real estate agencies, one of the biggest challenges that they have is obviously sales, but the sales come as a result of the leads. And I think that's important. And it's not just the number of leads, it's a quality of leads. So I think what you talked about is important. There needs to be some kind of a system to filter through.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like a lot of people in the beginning, they're like, okay, I just want leads. I just want as many form fills as possible. And it's like, okay, yes, we can drive you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of form fills, but those typical people, they're not actually going to answer your call. They're not going to answer your emails, because with social media, the ability to fill out a form is so easy. All you have to do essentially is a touch button. It will even automatically fill in your contact information for you now. So it's like lead generation has gone from this it's now this curiosity piece for people. They're just going to fill out that form because they're somewhat curious. But by having an entire system that will actually pre-qualify, that will build that relationship, that will answer as many questions as possible on the front end before you actually ever talk to them. So by the time you actually do talk to them, all their questions are answered. They're ready to actually move forward with you. And you're spending less time trying to sell them on working with you and more time trying to strategize with them to reach their end goal.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I think it comes to so Lisa and I, for those of you out there watching, we also work with some of the same clients. For example, I'll work with them on overall strategies. And if there's a digital marketing element or a social media element, I definitely send them over to Lisa because she's an expert. And I think the important thing here for me is, as a business owner, you don't want to be taking on stuff that you're not an expert at. And even for
Mhm.
myself, for example, digital marketing is something that I know fairly well, but I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into the weeds because it's going to bog us down in terms of what we're better at. We're better at serving from a marketing strategy perspective, from an operational strategy, from a growth strategy perspective. We don't want to get into the weeds on digital marketing. So for those of the people out there that are thinking of doing it themselves, can you give them some simple tips to get them started? But then we'll also talk about why it's important to actually get a professional, because right now it's really flooded as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, when people think about digital marketing, they simply just think about social media. But like I was explaining before, it's not just about social media. That's the front end of your business. The back end of digital marketing is all of those automation techniques. So if I can give you a tip to get started right away, is one, to start utilizing social media, but understanding that that's just the fuel. So I always like to describe a digital marketing strategy. The full strategy is kind of like your car. Okay, so having a funnel that will walk someone through your client acquisition process, or having email follow-up systems, this is your car's foundation. Social media is the actual fuel that you're pouring into your car to make it drive. So social media, a couple of tips right off the bat. One, understand who you're talking to. I feel like a lot of people, they're posting on social media because they just want to work with everyone and anyone. So it's like, if you're just starting out, I find this is a little bit a bigger struggle because you don't actually understand who you're talking to yet as a business owner. But as professionals, as executives, as CEOs, really, really hone in on the clients that you want to be attracting into your business. So if you want to be working with, and I'll keep with the mortgage agent just for this example, if I know that I want to be working with specifically mortgage agents or people that are working one-on-one with clients, yet I'm trying to talk to just anyone and everyone who wants to use social media, I'm going to lose that connection piece. So the biggest tip that I like to give from the front end perspective for social media is speak to that one dream client that you're looking to work with. And a lot of people are like, well, if I'm only speaking to one client, then what happens to all the other people in the world? It's like, okay, if I describe to you my dream client, her name is Chelsea. She is 35 years old. She married for 5 years. She has one kid. She's a mortgage agent. She drives a BMW. She loves to work out. She loves hiking. Like, she's very outdoorsy. There are so many Chelseas in the world just like her. But by me speaking to that one person, I'm going to actually build a stronger relationship and build a deeper connection with all the Chelseas in the world. So number one tip, understand who you're talking to. Second tip that I can give you is consistency. A lot of people, especially business owners and entrepreneurs, we're busy. I get it. We're busy. So we don't necessarily have time to fall in the trap of being on social media all the time. You don't need to be, first of all. Consistency, though, in always showing up and always serving with value to that one dream client is what's going to build that momentum with your social media. But that's just from a front end perspective. That consistency, that speaking to one person, making sure that you're actually building that relationship and showing up as your authentic self, that's just the front end stuff. The back end stuff to get ready, start looking at systems and processes in your business. If we are super, super busy within our everyday life, so we're super busy within our businesses and growing our businesses, we don't necessarily have time to do the same process over and over and over again. So one thing that I think is probably the most valuable thing that anyone could do, even if you've never been online before, setting up a booking calendar. A booking calendar for people is mind-blowing how different it will make your life. So when I say a booking calendar, when you're trying to schedule a meeting with someone and you're like, hey, are you available Tuesday at 10? No, I'm not available. Okay, what about Wednesday at 2? No, I'm not available. You go back and forth. Those emails are flowing, the conversation is flowing, and it's wasting time, to be honest. What you can do is send one specific link that has your pre-scheduled calendar of when you want to work, when you want to be available for your clients or for your customers. Send that one link and they can book in a time that works best for them. That is honestly something that is so super simple to set up. And like I can set it up for people, but it's really easy to set up yourself. Booking calendar softwares, there's a bunch of them out there, to be honest. There's Calendly, there's Book Like a Boss, there's Schedule Once. Like there's so many different booking calendars. Microsoft actually just launched their own booking calendar too. So that's something that I feel like just start looking at the systems and processes that you're doing constantly in your business and start automating it.
Yeah, I think that's really important what you talked about. The automation is having systems is important. It's funny you talk about booking calendars because I find that especially with individuals or solopreneurs, they want to have control over their schedule. And so that's why they keep it manual. And
yeah, but you can manually put in your own hours whenever you want to work.
Exactly. And I think what we have to take a look at is convenience for the clients or the prospects versus having that control, because as Lisa talked about, you can actually structure in certain times of days. You can have different links if you like, if you're hitting a completely different market. And so you can have that completely automated. So I think that's really important. So what are some tips or what are some tools, for example, because there are a lot out there that professionals can use, entrepreneurs can use to automate or make their posting easier or make the back end easier? Can you just name some so people can have an understanding?
Okay, so the main aspects that I find a lot of people like to automate in their business is one, that front end posting schedule. So like I said, being on social media all the time is not something that we can always do, but you can actually schedule all of your posts. You can schedule your Instagram or your IGTVs. You can schedule your stories. You can literally schedule your entire social media. There's a bunch of different platforms that you can use.
I'm just going to jump in there because I didn't know about the stories aspect. You can actually schedule your stories?
Yeah, so it depends on what type of platform you're using. But so the app called Plan, you can schedule your stories, you can schedule your feed post on, and I haven't found, so if anyone knows of an app that does everything under one bucket, let me know. But as of right now, you can kind of use a bunch of different apps that will schedule the different features on Instagram. But a free one for you is Facebook has Creator Studio. It came out in 2020. Creator Studio allows you to schedule your Instagram and your Facebook post, as well as your IGTVs on Instagram. So for example, what I personally do is on the 15th of every month, I'm actually scheduling all of my posts for the following month. So at this point in time, all of my posts for March, my IGTVs and all of my feed posts on Instagram and Facebook, they're all done. So I don't even have to go on social media if I really didn't want to. So definitely scheduling all of your content. So the platforms, Later is a really good one. It's a paid platform. Plan is another really good app to schedule your post. And Creator Studio is the free version through Facebook and Instagram. As you're using paid programs like Later, they will really give you some insights to what's actually happening on the front end of your business, which is really, I'm such a numbers person. So understanding the insights of your business, of what's working, what's not working is super important to me. But that's one thing that you can automate within your business. Another aspect, I know we already talked about the booking calendars. That's obviously extremely important. But then the other two focuses that you can be focusing on automating within your business is email follow-up, okay? Email follow-up, how many times do you get a call from a prospect and then you're sending that follow-up email as soon as you finish that phone conversation, one day later, a couple days later to check in, maybe a week later if they still haven't taken action, and you have this same follow-up sequence that you do over and over and over again. You can actually automate your email follow-up through email autoresponders. So an email autoresponder that both Purdeep and I use is ActiveCampaign. There's a bunch of different email autoresponders out there. There's GetResponse, there's Constant Contact. Like there's so many different platforms. And honestly, that's the one thing with the online world. There's a million different options that you can choose from. But if I could point out one thing that you should be looking for is automation sequences. So basically what an autoresponder is you can put people through a different email follow-up sequence based on the actions that they're taking with your business. So let's say that it was just a prospect and you want to follow up with them. You can have it have automatic emails that is personalized to that person. So it would say, hey, Joe, if you were talking to Joe, instead of just saying, hey, somebody. So you can personalize your emails and follow up with them automatically. So one, you don't have to remember if you need to follow up with someone. You don't need to set those reminders for yourself. But two, it just automatically will do that work for you. So email autoresponders is a really, really important one for people, especially if it's a prospect. If it's a prospect and it's their very first time talking to them it's actually taking 7 to 9 times, sometimes even up to 11 times for people to actually want to work with you and trust you. Okay, so having those email follow-up sequences, you can give them that 11 touch points without you having to do any additional work. All you have to do is show up when they're ready. So that would be the third thing. And then the last automation technique that I do a lot with my clients is lead generation. So a lot of people, they're like, okay, well, how do I get leads? How do I get leads? How do I get leads? I meet more people. It's like, okay, well, with social media, the power of social media is being able to put yourself in front of that dream client. Now you can actually automate your lead generation through paid advertising. So I do Facebook and Instagram advertising. That's essentially saying, hey, Facebook, put this post in front of this one dream client that I want to work with and get them to fill out those leads with that lead form. The other side of the paid advertising is in the automation side of it with lead generation is going to be that sales funnel. So if you're not sure what a sales funnel is, it's basically like a mock website that takes someone through the step-by-step process that you want them to take. Now, if you think of a website, and let's just say if we go to Purdeep's website, there's a million different buttons that we can click. We can get access to some lead magnets. We can go to his about page. We can go to a contact page. We can learn. There's a bunch of different things that we can do. If there's too many options for people, you've lost them. They got distracted. They're on a different page than what you actually want them to do. Whereas a sales funnel literally gives them one option and walks them through, first do this, now do this, and now do that. And that is how you can, 1, boost your client acquisition, and 2, boost your conversion rates because they're not being distracted with everything. But all of that entire process from collecting their information on social media or even grabbing their attention to collecting that lead, to following up with them, that all runs for you 24/7, 365 days of the year, while you're sleeping, while you're traveling, while you're working on your business, while you're hanging out with your family. It really doesn't matter. That's an entire automation strategy that you can implement.
Yeah, it's when you talk about sales funnel, if you should be picturing your funnel because that's what it is. You're basically taking a group of people, taking them through, filtering them down so that you actually have the right leads. All of this works. And I think a lot of people, at least I know your business has blown up since COVID, for example, because everybody's like, okay, I can't meet people in person. I can't do the traditional business development. I got to do digital marketing. And so what are you seeing? Are you seeing that people are not just being forced into it, but do you think that they have this general thing, like, do they feel like it's going to work, or do they feel like they just have to do it because everybody else is doing it?
Yeah, you know what? I feel like it's kind of a mixture of both. The people who have been wanting to do digital marketing for a long time and just haven't had the time, they are like, okay, now I'm ready. They're being forced to do it, but they understand that it works. But then there is the people totally on the opposite side that they've been shut down. Their doors have been closed, that they don't even know that this world exists, that they're kind of just like, okay, well, let's put money in it. And if it works for a month, great. But then after that, I'm out and I'll figure out how to walk down the street and meet people again. But it's people, I feel like they're just so uneducated, but COVID has forced them into doing something, which I think is fantastic. It's really, really opened the minds of people. And like going back 5-6 years ago when I first started, I didn't even know how to explain digital marketing to people. Like I went to school for marketing and people are like, well, no wonder you're a marketing person. Like you went to school for that. I went to school and I learned about target markets. I learned about how to place ads in magazines. I learned how to do trade shows. Like I did not learn any of this. This is all just trial and error. But in the beginning, I didn't know how to explain it to people. And because it was so different. But I used to explain it. You know, when you search a barbecue, then all of a sudden on Facebook and Instagram, there's a barbecue everywhere. I'm that annoying person because I literally didn't know how to say it to people because it's more than just social media. It's that whole back end stuff that really works. But COVID has made people realize that the online world is not going anywhere, that this is the only way that you really can connect with someone right now. And another thing that actually I saw a big shift with people is actually the back end systems and processes. A lot of people were like, okay, front end, reach more people, get more eyeballs on me. But now people are like, okay, I have the time to dig deep into my business. How can I automate the back end? And that's something that I saw a big shift with since COVID.
Yeah, and you just touched on a really good point because it's not just the social media, the front end, which is the attraction. Even if you're doing traditional business development, for example, you got people's names or, I know there's professionals that have hundreds of people on their list, but they haven't reached out to them. that can all be automated, and it should be automated to a certain degree. Obviously, you want to keep a personal touch, and that's, I think, where Lisa is an expert, because it doesn't seem like it's just a machine putting out emails and so forth. You want to make sure that there's a personal touch there. But having that automation is so critical, because the biggest complaint that entrepreneurs or executives or professional people have is time. And your time will be better served once you have the proper systems. And so I'm going to take the word that you used, automations, to a different level. Just have systems in your business. And when this is one of the key systems that is super important. So you and I are both in the digital marketing world. We're kind of up to speed for the most part in terms of what happens. You a lot more than me, because you do it day in and day out. What, some people might not have heard this. Some people may have. But Apple took a real big move, you can say, to on the surface, it seems like it's a way to help people with privacy. Personally, I think it's a way to kind of kick Facebook in the nuts a little bit. Can you explain what's happening?
I'll explain as best as we know right now, because even Facebook doesn't know too much, to be honest. But basically right now, Apple is changing all of their privacy settings. So anything to do with cookies. So basically being able to track what people are doing on the Apple devices, what they are implementing. And we have no idea when they are actually implementing this as of right now. They are giving their users the ability to opt out of tracking. So from a consumer perspective, yes, that's going to be a little bit more fantastic in terms of people can't just keep targeting you with ads and stuff, and they can't track what you're doing. But from a consumer side of it too, that also could be a downside, because I think a lot of people don't realize that algorithms on social media, they're showing you what you're interested in. And if all of a sudden that tracking is going to be gone, you're going to be looking at content and stuff that you aren't actually interested in, and that aren't serving you and putting stuff in front of you that you actually want to see and hear. So
just on that note, because I'm going to jump in, Lisa, because I think that's important. I think everybody's concerned about privacy, or most people are concerned about privacy. But one of the things that I've noticed, it's annoying when some people send, when I am getting ads that are not relevant to me, that is the most annoying thing. But what you just touched on is very important, because based on this information, I'm okay with someone taking my information and not selling my direct information to people in terms of my address, who I am, my age, who I'm married to, that kind of stuff. And I'm hoping, and I can't say for certain that Facebook takes that seriously and doesn't sell that information, but I'm thankful that they're able to target things down, because some of the best books that I've read, for example, are a direct result of them having information about what my interests are. Yeah. And I would never have come across that book had they not used it appropriately. So I think that point is very well made, that privacy is important, but also having these marketing companies have the right information is good in a way, because you're not bombarded by all the crap that's out there.
Yeah, and you know what? Like I remember talking to this guy, and he's like, social media is the most negative space I've ever been in, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, what are you reading? What are you clicking on? What are you engaging with? If your social media is filled with negative stuff, that's because you are searching for negative stuff. It's like if you're watching the news, that's all negativity. So if that's all you're searching online, that's all your social media. For me, if you go on my social media, it is the most inspirational stuff. Like I consume all the positive stuff, and that's what I take out of it. But like you said, it's like we literally, with social media, the power of it is being able to connect with other people around the world, or connect with other experts around the world, or connect with other people that you may not get to meet in person. And if we didn't have social media, we wouldn't have that connection piece, and you wouldn't be able to connect. Like literally some of my biggest mentors, I've never even met them before, but I feel like they are my people. I feel like I'm connected in some sort of way, and that's from social media. But going back to Apple, they are removing that ability to track what you're doing. From an advertiser perspective, what that's going to change is the ability to track offline of social media. So, and not to get too in depth with this, but before Apple changes all of this, we were able to track what people do 28 days after they've seen a post on social media. So why is that important? Let's say that we're running ads we'll say for your book. Okay, so if we put an ad in front of someone that wants to, or we're trying to get them to be interested in Pradeep's book, and then all of a sudden they click on that one link, if they don't do something within 7 days, and if they don't purchase that book within 7 days, we won't be able to track it anymore. Whereas before, we would have been able to track if it took them that 28 days to actually purchase that book. So that's going to be something that's changing from a targeting perspective. If there is anyone listening that does ads or is focusing on the back end of their business, you won't be able to track as much of conversions. And so what I mean by a conversion is a specific action that someone takes, and you won't be able to leverage that for your targeting on social media. So how that's going to change and how people should start focusing on building audiences on their social media is focusing on the engagement aspects. Social media is here to build relationships. It's here to connect us. It's here to have conversations. That's the entire point of social media. So focusing on the front end, that fuel for your business, have those conversations. Hang out where the experts or where your dream clients want to hang out. Videos are something that's, I know it's been a thing for a couple of years, but 2021, if you're not on video, you're not going to be seen, and you won't be able to use that effectively for your marketing. So with videos, let's say that Purdeep has a 5-minute video on his Facebook page, we can actually track every single person that watches that video, how long they're watching that video, and what actions they're taking within that video or from that video. And so how that is going to affect your targeting, the people that are watching your videos, they are warm audiences. What people, I feel like they miss with social media, it's cold audiences. People don't necessarily know who I am if they just land on my Facebook or Instagram page, but it's that connection piece and building that relationship. That's what's really going to boost your business on the back end.
Yeah, and that's really important. I think, one of the key concepts in business is you got to keep growing your audience, because if you're sticking with the same pool of people that are prospects that you're trying to dig, there's only so much gold you can get out of one place. So you actually have to keep continuing to grow that audience. That's why social media is important. That's why ads are even more important, because ads, you can be even more targeted in terms of the audience that you're going after. So really, really important things here. For you, Lisa, you're an entrepreneurial woman. What is it like to have your own business in this space? And because I know you're helping other women do the same. And so
I love it. I love what I do. But
so
I
what
feel
is
like, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel like when, like you say, as a woman, at day and age today, I don't feel like that there's any difference of being a woman and owning my business and being a man that owns my business. You may have different thoughts on that, of course, but for me, I don't know, I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. Like my dad, he owns his own business, and even as a young kid, I was going out handing out all his flyers. I worked for him whenever I could. He did the trade shows at his, so it would be like the why am I losing my train of thought? The festivals and stuff. He would have a booth there, and I would always be there as a kid. So it's like I've always had that entrepreneur mindset. I feel like I'm such a driven person. Like I'm that person that can just go, 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 go. My goal today, I'm already thinking about my goal tomorrow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Actually, it's funny you say that, because I think women in a business is important, because it obviously is. It's needed, because we right now think that business is mainly associated with men when it's not. I've even been trying to convince my wife to start her own business, because she's got an amazing skill, but it's just not for her. It's not built to run a business. And so I know very consciously that if she does, I'm going to be running it. She's just going to be doing certain aspects. So we're having those conversations. She's not quite there yet. But I think it's important. I think more women, just what you're doing is awesome, because more women in the entrepreneurial space is needed. It creates more competition as well, which is a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And if someone has a skill, it should be shared with the world out there.
Yeah, I think for females, and I don't know if this is true for males too, but it's that confidence piece. A lot of females, they're just used to either going to their job or taking care of their kids. Like that's just the reality of what it used to be. So it's like they don't have the confidence to stand up there and say, no, I actually am an expert and I know what I'm doing, and have the confidence to, even if it's talking to males and saying, no, I do know what I'm doing, listen to me. You don't have to overpower me type of situation. Yeah.
So do you find that sometimes when you're talking to male clients, for example, that there might be that underlying, because, and I didn't want to ask you your age, you kind of threw it out there and I kind of did the math, but yeah, do you find that some guys are like, well, A, you're a woman, A, you're younger, so what do you kind of know? Or do you feel like you're faced with that?
Yeah, definitely. Especially I'm 29, so I'm still relatively young. I started my business when I was 23. So even at that point, people are like, well, do you even know anything? And it's like, maybe at that point, no, I didn't. I had the drive and that's all I had. And that's what got me here today. But I don't feel like it anymore as much, but definitely the past couple years, I feel like if it's even a male that's my age, they're like, well, I know more because I can speak louder or whatever. I'm also a small person. So in person, if I'm standing beside males and I'm literally down here and they're up here, I feel like I'm looking up to them. But that was more my own thoughts. That was my own things that I had to work on for myself to find that confidence to be like, nope, I know what I'm talking about. I don't care if I'm a female. I don't care if I'm little. I don't care if I'm young. I'm no different. So I feel like I face it for sure.
So what's your advice to guys out there? Because we do, let's be honest, there's, some guys that may just be like, you're a woman, or they may have a spouse that wants to get into business and they're wondering, okay, should I support my wife into doing this or not? Do you have any advice that you would give them?
Yeah, I give guys. For me, I feel like just having that support and giving them that motivation. So we, as females, our emotions can be either really high or we can jump really low. So one thing that my husband likes to mention that he does for me specifically is he balances out my highs and lows. When I'm on a high, he needs to come back to reality. When I'm on a low, he needs to pick me back up. So it's riding our waves of emotions, but always telling us that we can do it, because that's all that females need, is that confidence boost. And it's like, as soon as they have that confidence, I won't say we'll run the world, but that song just kind of popped in my head.
Yeah, exactly. That's a Beyonce song, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I think that's important because what you just touched on is the difference between feminine and masculine energy, where feminine energy is very, you can say it varies, it rides the wave. It's in the moment with the feeling, whereas the masculine energy is very still. It's very grounding from that perspective. So I'm glad to hear that your husband is playing his part in that masculine energy role. What I know that your husband now is in the business, so he had his own, you can say, passion that he's working on, and I think he still may be pursuing that. But now he's also helping you as well. What's that dynamic like?
Yeah, so that actually started in 2019. We started slowly transitioning him into learning what I do. He is not a techie person at all. He hates being on computers. He doesn't use social media. Like, this is just way out of his comfort. But at the point in 2019, he was laid off because he was in the golf industry. He's a professional golfer. So in the winters, he had nothing to do. And I was getting super busy. So I was like, okay, well, why don't I teach you this and you can just help me on the side while you're laid off. He ended up taking on more of the financial roles. So he does like all the invoicing, payroll, all that type of stuff, which really suited him. That was the first kind of stage for him. Then I dragged him to a conference, and it was a business personal development conference. And he's the guy that's just standing there like this. He's like, this is not for me. What is everyone doing? Why are they jumping up and down, crying, screaming? Like, what? The first day he was super, super quiet and just wasn't really into it. The second day I started to see him clapping. The third day, he was actually standing up. The fourth day, he actually started jumping. So he's gone from someone who literally doesn't really focus on personal development at all, just kind of was he was always that traditional mindset, to now evolving within the company. Today, he's been working with me full time just over a year now, which is crazy to say. And it's something that it's a challenge at some points, especially me I'm such a control freak and I'm such a perfectionist, and I take my work like it needs to be perfect. And if I'm going to run it, it has to be good and it has to get the results. So for me, I feel like being the dominant person in the business, that definitely has been a struggle within our relationship, trying to find that balance. Definitely we've had hard days. Definitely we have good days. When I'm stressed, I find it's a little bit harder, but it's been fun. It's been a challenge, but I've seen him evolve, which is kind of cool on my side of things. But for him, he's definitely still trying to figure it all out. He's reading your book, which he's loving, which I love. But yeah, it's a challenge working and running businesses together, but it's also we never could see each other before. Like he was working 13, 16-hour days at the golf course, literally from sunrise to sunset. And I would never see him. He would work 6, 7 days a week sometimes. So to us, it was giving us that ability to be able to hang out together, to actually see each other, to work on our relationship, but also still being able to build a business together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's great. I think I'm kind of I lean towards family businesses because I grew up in one. I think they're absolutely phenomenal. My parents spent the entire day together, and we did with them as kids as well. So I think there's something special about that. And you're right; it does pose some challenges. How do you get past some of those challenges? How do you draw that line between your relationship? Because as we talked about, there's the masculine and feminine energy. This applies to businesses as well, where the masculine energy is very driven. It's very task focused. It's very dominant. And so you may have that in your business. So how do you end up balancing that out back in your relationship?
Yeah, so it really comes down to boundaries, and it's something that we're still working on. Having boundaries of when we're actually working and when we're not working. So even, for example, like if he wakes up before me, then I come out of the bedroom and all of a sudden he's talking about invoicing and work. I'm just like, okay, no, like that's not the first thing I want to talk about. And yes, I know we could work 24/7 if we needed to, but definitely setting those boundaries and making sure that he always has something to do is another thing that's something that I've had to work on. Because in the beginning, he's learning and I don't have really much time to train him. So it's giving him little tasks at a time so he feels fulfilled in the day and feels like he's accomplishing something and has a role. Because in the beginning, where he's stepping into my business, let's say it's, well, this is my business, this is my thing, this is what I do, blah, blah, blah. And he's just like, well, what do I do? Where do I fit in? So from that perspective, I had to make sure that he had a role. And I think I don't know if that's just a masculine thing or not, but it's like he needed that one purpose inside of the business to be able to be fulfilled. But having that balance of this is working hours, this is not working hours, this is when we can discuss working hours, and this literally having the days where we don't talk about work ever. That had to be a thing. Because I feel like, I mean, if you're hanging out with your business partner all the time, what are you talking about? You're talking about your business. So that was definitely something that we had to learn for sure.
Yeah, I think that's important, having the boundaries. That is just so key. And it's not easy to do, right? Because you're living together, you're working together, you're in a relationship together. And sometimes, like you said, sometimes there's just something you want to talk about. So one of you guys might be excited about something.
Yeah.
And so I got a question for you. So in your relationship then, who kind of takes charge? Do you find that your work, I'm going to leave it open at that.
Well, if you ask him, he'd probably say something different. I feel like I definitely wear the pants in the relationship, where I don't feel like it should be that way. And I won't even say should be that way, but I definitely feel like I kind of take control, but he would say totally opposite. He would definitely say no, in the relationship, he takes control. But I feel like it also depends on the situation. Like finance side of things, he's definitely that person. So, yeah.
So no, I think that's important what you just talked about, because sometimes, and I think this is a message for the gentleman out there, because I'm very much, and if you've read my book, if you understand my teachings, I'm very much about men being mindful alpha males. The alpha element being you are the leaders of your family. Ultimately, when there's a challenge, what ends up happening is the masculine energy is the one that steps up front. Right. Mm-hmm. That is what the masculine energy is about. And it's about leadership, and it can be a little bit dominating as well. But what you just touched on, Lisa, is so important, because it's not like, this is where I see relationships go faulty, is when the man thinks that he kind of runs the show in every aspect. And that's not what it is. It is situational. And that's what you just touched on, where your husband might have the financial aspect or a different aspect. See, for example, in our household, we have this joke, because my kids always ask, they're like, Dada, who's the boss, you or mama? Right? They try to stir the pot a little bit. And then my mom was here for about 6 weeks. She came and visited, and then they were asking my mom, and they're like, are you the boss of Dada? So there's, kids kind of pick up on it too. But here's what ends up happening in our household, for example. For many of the things, whether it's the finances or the bigger decisions, for example, because I have the business, for example, there's a lot of stuff that revolves around that. I typically take charge, but there's a big aspect of our health, our diet, where my wife is in the she's in medicine, and she's also a big, you can say, um, expert in functional medicine and immunology, for example. And so I let her take that. I say, you know what, even though I have knowledge in that space, that's not my area of expertise. And I give it to her, and I'm like, please take this. Please be the leader on this, because you need to. So I think that's important. There's different aspects within relationships that different, whether it's the man or the woman that actually takes charge, that actually makes that relationship functional. So I'm glad you talked about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's easy though, working together. Like there's been days where our heads will butt, and then there's days where we'll get along great and everything's perfect. But something that we actually had to implement too is headphones. Like we live in a smaller condo, and so since COVID, we've been locked together for a year. So it's like, if I'm in my little den and he's out in the kitchen, we can see each other, we can hear each other. So a lot of people are always like, well, how do you spend so much time together? How do you, like, you're literally surrounded by each other all the time. It's like, well, if I didn't have my AirPods, I probably wouldn't get through it. So majority of the time, we both have our headphones in, we're listening to our own things, we're doing our own thing. It's just, we're in the same space too. So definitely, it's not like we're holding each other's hands all the time, working side by side on our computers. We have found that space of what we need to do to be able to be, one, productive in our business, but two, still have that separation that people enjoy sometimes. I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but when the other person goes to work or you go do your separate things and then you come back together, we don't have that. So we've had to literally separate ourselves in rooms with headphones, and that's how we create that.
It's interesting you say that, because I found myself, and it's probably because I grew up in a family business, that I actually work better when my family is around, but not directly around. Like when my kids are in the house, but they're in a corner somewhere and I'm at home, it just gives me that sense of comfort. I don't know what it is, because ultimately a lot of us, why do we work so hard? It's to be able to spend more time with our family members.
Yeah.
And sometimes we lose sight of that. I think that's important. Mm-hmm. So this year, what are you focused on, or what are you excited about? Are you coming out with new products or services? What does 2021 look like for you?
Yeah, so I feel like over the last few years, I've really honed in on my specific strategy of what I do from the front end all the way to the back end. A big thing within 2021 is focusing on helping even more people understand, one, that digital marketing is a real thing, but two, that's what can give you that work-life balance. So I have an online course, The Spotlight Theory, which is actually, the enrollment starts next week for it. It's a 12-week program that walks entrepreneurs how to position themselves on the front end as an authority, generate those leads, build that automation, so then they can get booked appointments into their business. So that's a real big focus for me this year, is just helping even more people understand, one, how to do it, but two, that it's possible, and giving them a step-by-step strategy of what they can follow. Because what I find online, especially now, because people understand that online is such an important part of their business, is that they come on and they're like, do I need to be on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Clubhouse? Do I need this? There's so many things going on, that one thing that really helped me when I was first starting is following a mentor's process. So following that step-by-step guidance, just to ease it for people. Another thing that a lot of people struggle with is the automation. It scares them. It's like, well, I'm not a techie person. I have always been that techie person. Like if the PlayStation broke or if the computer didn't work, if the Wi-Fi went out, like I was that person in my family fixing it. So tech never scared me, but a lot of people are like, well, I hate computers. I mean, if my husband can do it, you can do it. Like literally, if he can build a funnel, you can build a funnel. Like it's so simple. It's just, you need that step-by-step guidance. So for me in particular, it's focusing on helping more people through my course, but that also gives people the ability, if they can't afford my services, they can still get the results. They just have to implement it themselves. Mm-hmm. And then for me specifically, I work with a lot of people who are the face of their business. So focusing on a personal brand versus a corporate brand. And that's a really big thing with social media. Corporate brands, let's say Coca-Cola, they do a fantastic job on putting the emotion into their marketing, but there's a million people that work at Coca-Cola. You don't necessarily know who's working with the products, who's working with the brand. Like you don't know that piece. With social media, having that personal brand, like if you go to my social media, you'll learn everything about me. You know that I'm married, you know that I'm into fitness, you know that I'm very outdoorsy, you know that I work by my computer all the time. Like you learn who I am as a person. So that's what I like to really help people with, is building their personal brand online in a way that positions them as that expert, but also starts that relationship building process. And then obviously the back end side is kind of that bonus piece of it.
Awesome. So you have ways of teaching people, but also doing it for people in terms of the automation, the ads, and all that kind of stuff. So where can people go to find out more about this?
Yeah, so my website, lisaann.ca, is where you can learn a little bit more about me. I have a lot of my YouTube videos up there, so you can learn basically all the tips and tricks for social media. If you want to, next week, I'm actually starting a bunch of live webinars, which is going to teach you how to utilize social media to attract your dream client into your business. You can go to lisaanncoaching.ca/live-masterclass. That's where you can register for this free webinar, but everything is on lisaann.ca.
Okay, awesome. So one of the things that I want to share with the audience is that I've worked with Lisa. I think this is super important. I'm a busy entrepreneur. I don't have time to do a lot of this stuff myself. But more importantly, in this realm, and I'm going to be very transparent, there's a lot of so-called experts out there when it comes to digital marketing. I've been very disappointed. I'm a very optimistic person, so I've given people lots of chances and paid them very handsomely for it. And a lot of people have not pulled through. Lisa is one of the few individuals that I can really trust with this. And it's important to have people, experts like Lisa, who you trust. Not only, I'm not saying this, in any way other than I trust the work that she does. Like, it is phenomenal. She goes out of her way to not only do the work, but also give me information. And she's proactive, because sometimes you hire someone and all of a sudden you don't hear from them for days. That's not how Lisa operates. And I think that's super important as an entrepreneur to have someone like that by your side. So thank you, Lisa, for joining us today. I hope people reach out to you. I hope that people that need help definitely reach out, and actually, whether it's get your course or contact you, whatever that is, but just learn more about what they need to do. So you gave tons of value to our audience, and I hope you have an awesome day.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
See you later.
Bye-bye. So there you go. Lisa joined us today. Lisa Ann, she's a good friend of mine. She's also an expert in the digital space, digital marketing, social media ads. I would just highly encourage you to reach out to her. There's something very specific that she said today. And if you're a business owner, you're a professional, and even just a person in general who wants to perform at a higher level, it's all about automation. Automating the things that you do not want to do, that you are not getting paid to do, for example. And everything is an opportunity cost in your business. And you want to maximize where your return is. And so having the right systems in place is absolutely critical. Lead generation is one of the most effective things to automate because it pays off. It's a direct ROI. You can see leads coming in, you can see sales being made, and you can see your revenues increasing. What better way to grow your business than that? So definitely reach out to her. Again, if you had not had a chance to get the Complete Man book, please do go to CompleteManAudio.com and use the promo code LimitedFree. You can get the book absolutely free. And you know what? We didn't get a chance to bring Elio up here at the beginning. But Elio, why don't you close us out with a quick tune, man? Let's give the audience some positive vibes. I think everybody can use it. It's Thursday morning. We got a couple more days before the weekend comes, so let's send them off on a good note.
I gotta tell you, man, I am so amazed and fired up this morning because Lisa, it is awesome. And I am into all of that. But, one thing that I am taking with me and keeping it as every single show, because Complete with Purdeep makes me complete every day. It is that, you don't back down. You need to stay on top of the game, and automation is gonna do that for you. That's why I have this little tune, just very short version of this Tom Petty song that I hope you like it. Do you remember Tom Petty? This is like a Latin style. And I won't back down. And I won't back down. In a world that's trying to bring me down, and I won't back down. Now he go, there is no easy way out. And I won't Purdeep.
It's nice, man. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, and I want to have a pina colada right now. I don't know what's going on.
Awesome.
But thanks, Elio. There you go. We got Elio. He's a backstage producer. He's an awesome guy. He's the owner of the Fiesta Media Group. Anything to do with production, reach out to him. He's awesome. So there you go. You got a ton of value from Lisa today. I hope you guys have an amazing day and go rock your Thursday. We'll see you next week, Thursday, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, live. So take care and all the best.